in Mago Reddit. Today's story is
My perfect sister was going to expose me in front of our whole family on my 18th birthday, but I found her secret account and 5 minutes later everything changed forever. Hi, my name is Dixie, I am 18 years old and I'm a woman. I have an older sister called Bethany who is 20. Unlike other stories I've read, Bethany has genuine characteristics that make my parents see her as the perfect daughter, and not just for superficial reasons. She has absolutely everything. She is incredibly beautiful, extremely intelligent. She was president of the student council, and she was even crowned prom queen. She has always been the star, the person everyone looked at with admiration. As for me, I get good grades, but I'm not very interested in extracurricular activities. And for my parents, these activities are extremely important, so you can imagine who their favorite was. We have a particular situation with birthdays. My birthday is just 2 days after Bethany's, so every year they would organize a huge celebration for her. They would invite all her friends, the whole extended family, literally everyone. It was a grand event with elaborate decorations, a special cake, lots of presents, absolutely everything. But when my birthday came around, they would always say, "We can't invite so many people again so soon," and I would end up with a small celebration that is hardly worth mentioning. It's not that they didn't do anything for me, but I always felt that they didn't want me to hog the limelight during what they considered Bethany Week. Yes, Beth's celebrations lasted a whole week because for them, they were events of the utmost importance. To give you more context, my relationship with Bethany was quite strange. Sometimes she would act as if I were invisible, and at other times, she could be really cruel to me. But then, about a week before Bethany's last birthday, something completely unexpected happened. She suddenly started to show an interest in my life for the first time. She sincerely asked me how I was, what was going on with me. We talked for several hours. I started to share some of the things that were bothering me, just as she told me about her problems, like the anxiety she'd been feeling lately, especially with college approaching. I even mentioned that I was considering seeing a therapist, because honestly, I think I need to. We seemed to be genuinely connecting, which I thought was because I'd be leaving for college soon, and she didn't want me to leave on bad terms. Maybe I had grown up. So naturally, when my birthday came around, I was really excited. I thought, maybe this year will be different. Bethany insisted that I should have a big birthday party because I was going to university and I was turning 18, and to my surprise, my parents were completely on board. They were fully involved, and for the first time, my birthday wasn't going to take a back seat. I invited all my friends. I invited the family, basically everyone I could think of, and they all came. Bethany was even making an amazing video for me, which she planned to show on the big TV during the party. She said it would be the highlight of the whole night. Everything was going perfectly. I thought I was finally having the birthday I had always dreamed of. But then reality hit me hard. My Aunt Ruby, 45, took me aside during the party, and I thought she just wanted to say something like, "Hi, happy birthday." But no, she had something completely different in mind. She asked me if I needed help with anything, and I was confused. Like, what do you mean? Apparently, Bethany had shown her this video she had made of me talking about my anxiety, about how I was thinking of seeing a therapist, and basically everything I had confided in her. Not only had she recorded me without my knowledge or permission, but now she planned to show it to all the guests. I was so furious, I didn't know what to do with myself. And then the situation got worse. Aunt Ruby revealed to me that Bethany had many other videos too. Videos where she talked about my crushes, some strange dates I had been on, and personal things I thought were private. My sister wanted to play one last cruel joke on me, completely exposing my privacy. To be honest, at that moment I was beyond angry. I wanted to do something that would make her feel exactly what I was feeling. So I decided to go into revenge mode. You know what? Bethany has a secret Instagram account, one that she uses for all her private stuff. She even has a specific account that shows our parents and family, but I never had access to the other one. But like I said, she was extremely angry, and I wanted to make sure she knew how that felt. So I did what any vengeful sister would do. I took her phone without permission. I know, taking other people's stuff is wrong, but you can't confront this kind of person by behaving correctly. Her password was incredibly easy to guess. Really easy. It was her birthday. So I went onto her secret Instagram, and there it was, her whole hidden life, the one she thought nobody knew about. I took all the photos from her account, photos of her at parties, kissing boys, and even one where she was kissing a girl. It's like she was this perfect and untouchable person in front of the family, and now I had something I could use against her. So what did I do? I took those photos and showed them to everyone at the party, projecting them on the TV. And it was worth it, because I got a certain satisfaction from seeing how her face turned completely red when people started to see her secret life. And here we are now. My parents are absolutely furious, Bethany is furious, and I honestly am quite okay with what happened. I mean, yes, I acted out of revenge, but it's not like I exposed anything really harmful. They were just his little secrets that he thought he could hide from everyone. But now, the whole family knows everything. And yes, I probably shouldn't have taken things that far, but at the time, I felt it was a way of hitting him back for betraying my trust. So Reddit, did I go too far with this? Was it wrong to expose her secrets like that? Or was it a justified response to her betrayal? I know I can't count on my family for an unbiased answer. I know my parents would support or minimize what she did, while what I did is considered an unforgivable sin in their eyes. Update 1. Exactly 1 week has passed since my previous post, and with all the events that have happened in my story, it is time for an update, as I think that if I wait any longer, it will become too long a post. I thought that after a few days, things would go back to normal. It's not like I hurt their beloved pet, I just showed photos of her having fun at parties. Maybe there would be some awkwardness, some tense conversations, and then life would go on as normal. But no, my parents reacted explosively, completely furious, reaching a level of anger from which there is no possible return. After the TV incident, my parents were furious with both of us. I thought they would at least listen to me and understand why I did what I did, but no, from their perspective, I committed a terrible crime against humanity by exposing my sister's compromising secret. The comments suggest that my parents might be more upset about the photo of me kissing a woman than the others, but I think the fact that I appear kissing different people is what has infuriated them the most. Those are the family secrets they prefer to keep hidden from the rest of the world. The irony is that Bethany did exactly the same thing to me, but worse, because she filmed me without my consent and was ready to publicly humiliate me in front of everyone. But somehow, that didn't matter at all. What mattered was that I had exposed the golden child. My mother was screaming about how ashamed she was of Bethany, which I completely understand. Some of those photos showed pretty inappropriate behavior at parties, whatever. But let's face it, this would only be a problem if our family wasn't so traditional. But instead of focusing on how bad it was that Bethany violated my trust first, they turned on me. They said I was just as guilty for doing something so vindictive, for embarrassing the family in front of all our relatives. My father believes that this is not how we deal with problems in this family. But what am I supposed to do when, every time I try to handle situations in the right way, they completely ignore me? When I try to express how I feel, they systematically reject me. When I try to defend myself, I am the one causing problems. And now, apparently, when I get a modicum of justice, I am the one ruining the family reputation. Then they drop the bomb. They're throwing me out of the house. Yes, they actually said it. My father told me straight that I had a week to find a place to stay, because they can't have someone who doesn't respect the family living under their roof. At first, I thought they were lying, saying things in a moment of anger, but no, they meant it completely. I tried to explain my perspective again, but they wouldn't have it. My mom kept shaking her head, saying, "You crossed the line, Dixie. You don't do that to your own sister." But I noticed that she's not kicking Bethany out of the house, just me. Bethany, by the way, hasn't even tried to defend me. Not that I expected her to, but part of me thought she might feel some guilt. But no, she's just crying, playing the victim, acting as if I had completely destroyed her life. I heard her tell my mom that she didn't even want to hurt me, and that the video she had prepared was supposed to be something fun and lighthearted, as if showing all my private thoughts, my anxieties, my crushes, and personal struggles were something to laugh about. And the worst part? My parents completely believed her. My mom said, "She wasn't trying to humiliate you, Dixie. She just made a mistake." Oh, so she makes a mistake and gets sympathy. I get revenge and get kicked out of the house. Someone explained the logic of this to me. So now I have a week to figure out what to do. I was supposed to take a gap year before college. I'm still waiting for my university admissions reply, so it's not like I can just pack my bags and move into a student residence. I have a job, but I don't earn enough to afford my own place, not even a small studio. I have some savings, but, again, it's nowhere near enough for a rental deposit, let alone to get by. I'm really scared, to be honest. I've never lived alone before, and I have no idea how I'm going to manage. I suppose I could try staying with a friend, but that's a long shot. Most of my friends still live with their parents, and I doubt their families would be keen on taking in someone else, especially with all this family drama involved. I have some extended family, but considering they were all at the party and witnessed everything that happened, I doubt they'd be willing to take my side in this. Aunt Ruby might be an option, as she at least seemed concerned when she warned me about the video, but she's always been pretty distant when it comes to family conflicts, so I don't know if she'd want to get involved. I've been looking for cheap rooms to rent, but the prices are absurd, and most require deposits that I simply can't afford. I could try to get a second job, but that would take time, and I only have a week. I feel like I'm running out of options, and honestly, I'm devastated. Not so much about leaving home, but about the fact that my parents were willing to throw me out so easily. I always knew they preferred Bethany, but I guess some part of me hoped they still loved me enough not to abandon me like this. So Reddit, any advice on what you would do in my situation? I'm open to any suggestions at this point. Update 2. I know you've been asking for my story for the last 2 months, but I hope you understand that I've been busy with more urgent matters like finding a place to live. However, I didn't forget about you, and every day I thought that when my situation improved a little, I would write an update. Even so, my life has not completely improved. There is always some crisis to resolve. After my parents kicked me out, I first asked Aunt Ruby if I could stay with her for a few months until I got my university results. She said no, she didn't have enough space, which I totally understand. But then I asked my grandparents, thinking they would probably say yes because, they're my grandparents. And they basically gave me the same negative answer. At that point, I was starting to seriously panic. I had a job and some savings, but it was definitely not enough to get my own place. I was seriously considering sleeping in my car or staying on the sofas of people I barely knew. I was completely desperate. But then my amazing friend Brenda stepped in. She asked her parents if I could stay with them for a while, and fortunately, they agreed. I had also spoken to other friends beforehand, and they all said the same thing as my family in one way or another, so Brenda was literally my salvation. I moved in with Brenda's family, and they have been extremely kind to me. They don't make me feel like a burden, although sometimes I definitely feel that way. I try to help out as much as I can, washing dishes, cooking, running errands, because the last thing I want is for them to regret giving me this opportunity. But then my parents decided that wasn't enough drama for them, so they started hassling Brenda's parents, literally accosting them after church, to tell them they were interfering with their plans by letting me stay. Apparently, they thought that throwing me out would teach me a lesson, and Brenda's family was standing in the way of that plan. What was the lesson supposed to be? That I should accept being treated like I was worthless? That I should apologize for existing? Fortunately, Brenda's parents are people of principle, and they put a stop to it quickly. They told my parents that throwing a daughter out for such a petty drama didn't teach any valuable lessons. It was just a cruel act. Meanwhile, Bethany got away with just a warning. My parents said they would punish her if she didn't change her attitude, but of course, they did absolutely nothing. She's still at home, living her life, and probably kissing more people. Not that I see anything wrong with someone kissing other people, but by my parents' strict standards it is. But she still doesn't need to learn any lessons. Typical preferential treatment for the favorite daughter. And I'm not gonna lie, living with Brenda's family has been strange. Not because of them, they've been wonderful, but because I feel a confusing mixture of gratitude and guilt. I'm more than grateful that they took me in, but I also keep thinking, why did it have to come to this? Why did my own family throw me away so easily? It's hard not to let those thoughts get to me. I've also been getting messages from Bethany, who keeps telling me she's going to ruin my life, just like I ruined hers. And honestly, at first I thought she was just dramatically exaggerating. Like, yes, I exposed her secret Instagram, but let's face it, she wasn't an innocent victim in this whole situation. At first, I ignored her messages, but they kept coming. Some were minor comments, like, I hope you enjoy being homeless, loser. And others were completely disturbing, like, I'll make sure you regret messing with me. I don't even know what she thinks she can do, but the constant harassment started to seriously affect me. I started to feel a knot of anxiety every time my phone vibrated, thinking it was another message from her. It was so intense that I finally started to see a therapist. Admitting that I needed therapy was a huge step for me. My family has always been the type that considers therapy to be for weak people, or for those who are looking for excuses to justify their bad behavior. So although I always knew that I needed help, I had never considered it a viable option until now. But it was Brenda's parents who encouraged me, and it has really helped me a lot. But just when I was starting to regain some control over my life, of course, something else had to go wrong. Last week, I got accepted to one of the colleges I applied to. It wasn't my first choice, but it was better than my backup choices, so I was actually pretty excited. The problem? My formal acceptance letter and financial aid package were sent to my parents' address, which meant I had to go back to their house to pick them up. I knew it would be awkward, but I thought, okay, maybe they'd let me in for my documents and then I'd leave. They could at least pretend to be civilized for 5 minutes, right? Wrong. I arrived at the house and knocked on the door. No one answered. I rang the bell, nothing. I tried calling my mom's phone, and it went straight to voicemail, so I knocked again, and again, and again. I stood in front of the door for a whole hour, waiting. At one point, I even saw movement through the window, so I knew she was inside. She was simply deliberately refusing to open the door to me. How petty can a person be? You throw your own daughter out, and then when she comes back for important documents, you completely ignore her. I was getting more and more frustrated, but I didn't want to start screaming like a mad woman in the street, so I left. Now I have no idea what to do. My financial aid package is in that letter, and I need it urgently. The university informed me that they sent it by regular mail, so there is no tracking number or anything similar. I already called them, and they said they could send me another one, but it would take a couple of weeks, and I don't know if I have that kind of time available. I also don't know if my mom really threw away the letter, or if she's just keeping it for pure spite. Update 3. So yeah, I ended up waiting for the second package because there really wasn't much else I could do. But, of course, nothing in my life is simple, it never is. It turns out that I still needed a lot of documents from my parents for financial aid. Things like tax returns, signatures, proof of income, all the stuff that normal parents would just provide for their child without turning it into an all-out battle. But as we have already established, my parents are far from normal. At first, I tried to ask them nicely via text message. No response. I called, straight to voicemail. Brenda even suggested I try to get one of my aunts to talk to them on my behalf, but that didn't work either. Aunt Ruby was barely willing to help me when I needed a place to stay, and the rest of my family was either completely indifferent or actively avoiding me. So I had to get creative, and that's when I realized exactly where my parents would be that Sunday, at church. Now, before you think I went in there and made a dramatic soap opera-style scene, I didn't. I just waited until the service was over, walked up to them in front of the pastor, and started talking loud enough. I was polite, I was respectful, but I made sure that everyone nearby could hear me. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I really need those documents for my college financial aid. Can we talk about it now? And boy, the expressions on their faces. Yes, I made them feel uncomfortable, but all's fair in war, right? I could see them calculating in their heads. We make a scene in the church, or we help her. They reluctantly agreed, but the moment we left, my mother grabbed my arm, pulled me aside, and reprimanded me in a low voice. What kind of game are you playing? I looked her straight in the eye and said, if you try to ruin my admission to university, I will make sure that everyone in this church knows exactly what kind of parents you are. I will make sure that you are so ashamed that you can never show your faces here again. You have ignored me. You have belittled me. You have made me feel insignificant, just because I was not Bethany. But as soon as I turned the tables and used their own game against them, suddenly they wanted to cooperate completely. In short, they handed over all the necessary documents. I got their signatures, I meticulously checked everything before leaving. And best of all, that was it. I'll never have to deal with them again. I have everything I need to move on with my life. Update 4. My mother had to make one last move before I left. I'm going to university tomorrow. I still can't quite believe it, but I'm both excited and terrified at the same time. I was trying to be responsible, making a detailed list of everything I needed to pack, when I realized that there were still a lot of my belongings left in the house. Things like clothes, blankets, and some personal items that really mean a lot to me, normal things that any reasonable person would assume they could take. I sent my mother a message. Just out of courtesy, I wasn't even asking for permission. I just said, hey, I'm going to come by and pick up the rest of my stuff. She left me a message. She didn't even bother to reply. I should have anticipated at that point that she was planning to do something unpleasant. Anyway, I went the next day. The front door was unlocked, so I just went in. I thought, well, technically it's still my house too, isn't it? I used to live here. My room was still my room. My belongings were still my belongings. Or so I thought. I started packing, not paying much attention to anything else, when suddenly my mother burst into the room. She literally stormed in as if she had found me stealing from the house. "What do you think you're doing?" she asked me, with a totally dramatic attitude. I just looked at her, holding a half-folded sweatshirt in my hands. Packing my stuff." She crossed her arms and gave me that look, the typical mother look, the one that means the situation is about to get unpleasant. "That doesn't belong to you," she said. I literally laughed because I thought she was joking. I even bought some of this stuff with my own money, my clothes, my books, even my own sheets. What the hell was she talking about? But no, she was completely serious. She claimed that, as she and my father had bought most of those things over the years, they legally belonged to them. And as I had decided to disrespect the family, I had no right to take anything. I was just standing there, looking at her, trying to process what kind of madness I was experiencing. And then she simply snatched the suitcase from me, physically took it away as if she were punishing a small child, and ordered me to leave. I replied, "I can leave, but I'll see you at the church if I can't take the things that belong to me. I could go to the police, but I think the church will have a better result." She gave me back my suitcase and went to the kitchen grumbling because she knew I had won this time. I managed to gather all my belongings and leave for good. The last few days have been a whirlwind of activity. Between packing, buying everything I needed at the last minute, and getting organized, I've barely had time to sit down to write this update. Brenda's family has been incredible. They even organized a little farewell dinner for me last night. Update 5. I think this must be the first update where I don't have a personal problem to tell you about. There was always something new happening with my family, but being so far away from them, things seemed to sort themselves out as if by magic. It's not really magic, it's just that eliminating toxicity from your life produces positive results. But this update isn't going to be about my life and how happy I am now. I think that would be a bit boring. Instead, I bring you the latest news about my parents and my sister. You will notice that I don't say about my family because now there are two clearly defined sides, my parents and my sisters. It could be seen as either bad luck or good luck, depending on how you analyze what happened at my birthday party almost a year ago. First, let me explain what just happened, and then I'll share my thoughts. My parents hosted a dinner a few nights ago with friends from church. My father had an emergency that forced him to return home because, quite simply, he doesn't like to use public restrooms. He specifically needs to use the bathroom in his house, and more precisely the one in his room. But on the way to the bathroom, he passed Bethany's room, and he didn't find her kissing a boy or doing things that, according to my parents' vision, should be reserved for marriage. She was recording a video. You might think it was a silly dance for TikTok following a choreography or an influencer-type video for Instagram, but no. Maybe there was a choreography, I can't say for sure or deny it, but the video was for another platform. Something my father discovered when he asked her what she was doing with so little clothing on. My parents may be traditional, but they watch the news and know exactly what OnlyFans is. So my father immediately called my mother to come back from the restaurant as best she could, and for both of them to confront their daughter. I always thought that my parents could forgive Beth anything, but I guess even they have a limit, and that limit is precisely that kind of content. The decision they made was to throw her out of the house. She studies at a local university, so she was still living with them, at least until this incident. Now, how do I know all this? Because I received a message from what seemed like the best sister in the world, because she wanted to move in with me. She told me about the whole situation and asked if she could stay in my university room for a while. Although I would have loved to have her with me, I'm being completely ironic. The truth is that I can't allow anyone to live there. I have a roommate, and the space is barely big enough so that we don't clash when we're both there. So no, I don't want to or can't accommodate her here, especially if she plans to continue creating that kind of content. My question is, why didn't she look for her own place since she thought people on that platform made good money? But she explained to me that she was only doing it to get some extra money for her parties and that she was doing it mainly for fun. She had temporarily moved in with a friend, but things didn't end there, far from it. By the time she called me to ask if she could stay with me, as her friend didn't have much space and she didn't want me to film those things at our house, she also told me what she had done with our parents. Before asking me, who was clearly the last option on her list, she went to church on Sunday, exactly as I had done previously. She knew what had happened and how it had worked with me, so she decided to use the same tactic to try to move back into our parents' house. But my parents were unable to take her somewhere private to talk before she mentioned OnlyFans in front of several people in the congregation. Moreover, the conversation did not take place in discreet whispers, but when everything came to light, they began a heated shouting match that forced the pastor to intervene to end the situation. I don't know if it was specifically the OnlyFans thing or just the scandalous public fight, but Brenda told me that my parents were asked to find another church. So was I really unlucky that I didn't discover their OnlyFans account, which would have been an even more devastating revenge? Or maybe I was really lucky, because things would have escalated much worse for me? They probably would have kicked me out of the house anyway, so the outcome would have been similar, but at least I would have had the satisfaction of having done it myself.